Someone! Someone help me! Suddenly, I heard a scream. Looking in the direction of the voice, there was a woman being harassed by a man. In fact, this woman and I had an unexpected connection. My name is Mike. I'm just a regular company employee, the kind you'd find anywhere. I had a wife. Her name was Catherine. We were classmates in high school. During our freshman year, our seats in class were close, so we quickly became friendly. Once we found out we both were raised in single-mother households, we became even closer. Because we grew up in a similar environment, we had many things we could relate to. From there, we hit it off completely. And before I knew it, I had fallen in love with Catherine. One day after school, in an empty classroom, I confessed my feelings to Catherine. Although I was anxious that she might only see me as a friend, when I gathered the courage to tell her that I liked her, Catherine said, "I like you too." And so we began to go out. Despite our childhood struggles, we had few good memories, so while our hearts were in sync, we agreed not to pry into each other's past. Catherine was very kind. When I was struggling to improve my score on exams before getting into a university, she encouraged me by saying, "It's just practice. Don't worry too much. As long as you don't make the same mistake in the future, you're fine." Even though Catherine was surely having a hard time with her exams, she always worried about me. Thanks to Catherine's support, I was able to get into my first choice university. Our relationship continued, even after we became university students. We were worried about whether we could repay our student loans in the future, and there were also classes where we struggled to earn credits. But every single time, we would help each other, and we managed to graduate from university. Then, in our third year of working as adults, we finally got married. Although we didn't have any kids, we continued to be a happy couple, living our days blissfully. The meals Catherine prepared for dinner seemed to have suddenly improved since we got married. Enjoying the delicious dinner and sharing what happened on our days were always enjoyable. We often went cycling together on holidays. Even though I hated working out, Catherine invited me and I found it surprisingly fun, and we would bike to unknown places on holidays. If we found a diner or a restaurant we were interested in during our cycling trip, we would eat there, and we enjoyed shopping at interesting stores. Getting lost, arguing while searching for the road with a map on our smartphones, looking back, even that is a good memory for me. I wished for these happy days to continue. Sometimes we would talk about our future, imagining living happily together even when we are old, like we want to live harmoniously even when we become grandparents. Yet why would God play such a cruel trick? The tragedy struck so suddenly. It was on our wedding anniversary 5 years ago. Catherine said she would be a little late that day because she was going to buy a celebration cake. While I was waiting for Catherine after coming home earlier, I received a phone call. I thought it was suspicious because it was from an unknown number. But when I answered, I was told this: Catherine was in a traffic accident and was taken to the hospital, but she passed away. I couldn't believe what had happened. She was fine just this morning. I thought many times to myself, if only this were a dream. But reality was cruel, and Catherine's death was something that had actually happened. Rushing to the hospital, I heard the detailed information of the accident. While crossing the pedestrian lane, Catherine was hit by a car that ignored the traffic signal. And then I saw Catherine's body. She looked as if she were sleeping, with a very beautiful face. "Hey, Catherine. No, I don't want this to be real. Please, Wake up! I thought she might wake up if I called her, but Catherine didn't move at all. When I gently touched her face, there was no warmth left. At that moment, it actually hit me that Catherine was no longer alive. Why, Catherine, it's all a lie, right? The reality that Catherine was no longer in this world rushed over me all at once, and I crumbled to my knees. From that moment, I broke down in tears. My beloved wife passed away. I just couldn't accept the reality. I thought time would solve it, but I didn't feel any better for a while after the funeral. Since Catherine was gone, I've only been eating fast foods or frozen meals. I just couldn't find the motivation to do anything. Eating alone was really depressing. The bicycle we used to ride on holidays, I had to put it away in the storage, as looking at it only reminded me of the happier times with Catherine. Having lost the will to live, I spent my days in a daze, all through the weekdays and even during the days off. I did go to work, but I just couldn't put my heart into it. I was just going through the motions, just doing the bare minimum for work and going home. My colleagues who noticed the difference in me were very concerned and asked me, "Are you okay?" They would invite me to drinking parties to cheer me up. But I just couldn't get in the mood and kept turning them down. Of course, I thought to myself that I couldn't continue on like this. I tried taking up new hobbies to change my mood, but I couldn't keep up with any of them. Even when I went out somewhere without Catherine, nothing seemed interesting. In the end, I spent many days feeling depressed. Then, a turning point came for me. A mid-career hire named Jessica joined my workplace. The moment I saw her face, I couldn't believe my eyes. Incredibly, she was the spitting image of my late Catherine. It was as if Catherine had come back to life. By some twist of fate, Jessica's seat was right next to mine. "I look forward to working with you." With that, Jessica greeted me gently. Same here. I look forward to working with you too." I could only respond to her in an awkward way. On top of that, I was appointed to be Jessica's trainer. While the occasions for me to interact with Jessica inevitably increased, the image of Catherine kept intruding, resulting in awkward exchanges. Finally, Jessica asked me, "Did I do something to offend you, Mike?" "Oh, I'm sorry. It's nothing really." I considered telling Jessica about Catherine in a spur of the moment. However, it would be too much for Jessica, whom I had just met, that she looked like my deceased wife. So I made up stories and engaged in harmless conversations to pass the time. But in my mind, I couldn't help but see Catherine's face. There were aspects of Jessica, apart from her face, that reminded me of Catherine. For example, the way she blinked twice when she was surprised. Also the way she tilted her head to the right when she was thinking. Like that, there were similarities in these small gestures. On the other hand, Jessica, who noticed me feeling somewhat down, spoke to me kindly. "If you're not feeling well, I can handle the rest of the work, so don't hesitate to leave early." I was comforted by Jessica's kindness, who was just concerned about my well-being. This too was similar to Catherine. In fact, there were so many similarities that I couldn't believe she was someone else. Unable to believe that she was unrelated to Catherine, I was driven by the urge to ask about her. But, given the nature of the matter, I couldn't find the right timing to bring it up. And time just kept passing. About a month after Jessica joined, our department decided to hold a social gathering, which also served as a welcome party for Jessica. As Jessica's trainer, I was assigned to organize it. I had to decide on the venue and plan out the schedule. Most importantly, I had to make sure that the star of the show, Jessica, would enjoy it. As I was thinking about this, I naturally found myself wondering, what kind of welcome party would Catherine like? Every time I remembered about Catherine, I felt down, but this time, it felt like I was planning a fun trip. However, this welcome party is for Jessica. I couldn't keep thinking about Catherine. Here I am, thinking about Catherine during Jessica's welcome party. I forcibly pushed Catherine out of my mind and proceeded with the planning of the party. When I casually asked Jessica about her favorite food, I found out she liked pizza. So, I decided to look for a restaurant that served delicious pizza. I booked a large room for the party and decided to hold a bingo tournament. I thought it would be nice if the bingo tournament could bring Jessica and everyone else at work closer together. And on the day after work, we all moved to the restaurant. Once it started, the party was a huge success. Since we had a lot of people who loved parties, our colleagues were close, and everyone was showing a happy smile. The star of the show, Jessica, was also having a chat with everyone while enjoying her pizza. As the party went on, I took control of the bingo game I had prepared. The bingo game was more exciting than expected, and Jessica won the first prize. Her smile of joy was quite memorable. Even after the bingo game, Jessica continued to engage in conversation with many people, truly playing the part of the guest of honor. Although the preparation was difficult, it was worth it seeing Jessica having fun. As the alcohol flowed, I too was in high spirits and was able to have a good time for the first time in a while. Time flew by, and as the restaurant's closing time approached, the party ended on a very positive note. Then I paid with the money collected from everyone and left the restaurant. By that time, my other colleagues had already started to go home. Since my bus was coming, I hurried to the station. Suddenly, I heard a woman scream, "Someone! Please help!" Looking in the direction of the voice, I saw Jessica being held by a man I didn't recognize. "Please, stop!" She was desperately trying to shake the man's hand off, but he wouldn't let go. I immediately ran to Jessica. "Hey, let go of her!" The man gave me a glaring look when I said that. "Who the hell are you? Don't interfere. I spotted this lady first." The man, who had a bright red face, began to say that. He wasn't speaking properly, so he must have been drunk. "Please, let her go. Can't you see she's not comfortable?" As I said that and grabbed the man's arm to separate him from Jessica, the man suddenly started yelling. "Shut up! Mind your own business!" The angry man suddenly swung at me. At the last moment, I was able to block his punch. "Violence is not the answer. I'm calling the police." As I said this confidently and pulled out my phone, the man seemed to realize the gravity of the situation and ran off. "Jessica, are you okay?" Upon hearing that, Jessica looked at me with a worried expression. "I'm fine. But what about you, Mike? You blocked that punch with your bare hands, didn't you? Does it hurt?" "It was a punch from a drunk man, so it wasn't that strong. I'm okay." As I said that, I showed Jessica the palm of my hand. It really didn't hurt that much. Jessica, who looked relieved, thanked me. "I'm so glad. Thank you for helping me out." "Helping someone in need is a given. I'm glad you're okay, Jessica," I replied with a smile. Jessica, are you going home by bus? This road is dark and dangerous, and those types of guys could show up again. If it's okay with you, can I accompany you? I was just about to head to the station myself. Thank you. That would be helpful, Jessica said with a smile. Her smiling face really does resemble Catherine's. For a while, we chatted about trivial things as we walked, but I finally decided to ask her about Catherine. I'd always wanted to ask, but it wasn't something I could bring up at work. And until now, we hadn't had a chance to be alone together. That's why I thought this was my only chance. Jessica, there's something I want to ask you. As I said that, I took out my phone and showed Jessica a photo of Catherine. This woman looks just like you, so I was wondering, do you know her? Then Jessica opened her mouth wide in surprise, and the next moment she began to tear up. Jessica, what's wrong? I asked her in a panic. Did I do something wrong? I decided to listen to her story, so we moved to a nearby park bench. Once Jessica had calmed down, I asked my question again. The woman in the photo I showed you earlier is my wife. By any chance, do you know her? In response, Jessica nodded. Yes, the woman in the photo is my long-lost sister. Upon hearing that, this time I was the one who was surprised. Who would have thought of such a coincidence? Really? Yes, there's no mistake. We are sisters with the same mother but different fathers. We were separated at a young age when each of us was taken by our fathers. Since then, we lost contact. I see. I had no idea that had happened. I had never heard that Catherine had a sister. As I was about to say that, a certain memory came back to me. At some point, while having dinner at home, Catherine told me about a sister she couldn't contact. I asked, "Don't you want to meet your sister?" To which Catherine replied, "I do have a desire to meet her, but if she is living happily, that's what makes me happiest." Simply wishing for the other's happiness. It's what something Catherine would say. When I mentioned that, Jessica smiled sweetly. She was a kind person, wasn't she? Married to someone reliable like you? I'm sure she was living happily. Although I felt a bit awkward, I gathered up the courage and answered like this. My wife passed away in a car accident. That's why I'm still not quite myself at work. When I said that, the tears welled up in Jessica's eyes again. Is that so? I wish I could have seen her once more while she was alive. Looking at Jessica, who murmured that, I also felt a lump in my throat. But I'm sure Catherine is happy in heaven. Because Jessica, you and I met. I have vague memories because it was when we were little, but I remember my sister was always smiling. I'm sure she's smiling even now. Oh, I know. Jessica seemed to have thought of something. Could I visit her grave and pray for her the next time? She is Catherine's sister, so there's no reason to refuse. Of course. I'm sure Catherine will be pleased. Saying that, I stood up from the bench, and we headed to the grave close to my place. After offering the candle, I shared memories of Catherine and I to Jessica. The reason is, Jessica wanted to know more about Catherine when she was alive. Once I started to talk about the memories, I was flooded with things I wanted to talk about. From our first meeting, and that biking was her hobby, and how good she was at cooking, and how she was always kind. Before we knew it, it was morning, but Jessica listened to my stories sincerely. Thank you for today. I'm sure my sister was happy to have married you, Mike. I can tell that you truly loved her. After saying that, she left with a happy smile on her face. Once Jessica was gone, I couldn't help but burst into tears. From then on, Jessica began to visit my house regularly. Not only did she bring candles, but she also brought flowers as offerings. Having someone to talk to at home, I gradually regained my strength. Before, I would just zone out at home, but thanks to Jessica, I started smiling more. Whenever you come over, I find myself smiling without even realizing it. I'm also happy to see you getting better, Mike. I'm sure my sister would want to see you smile too. Jessica told me that. Hearing those words, I felt as if a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Our interaction continued even after that. Like Catherine, Jessica also seemed to enjoy physical activities on her days off. When I heard that, I pulled out my dusty bicycle from the warehouse and decided to go cycling with Jessica. The exercise was a bit much for me after such a long time, but I felt refreshed, realizing how enjoyable cycling could be. Above all, it was a lot of fun to visit various places with Jessica. Before I knew it, I found myself falling in love with Jessica. When I gathered the courage to confess my feelings, she accepted. Jessica had been interested in me since the time I saved her from the drunk man. At first, she was being formal with me since I was her trainer, but we gradually got closer. And our relationship continued, and I finally decided to propose. I chose a lookout spot with a beautiful night view, a place that she loved. Jessica, will you marry me? And Jessica accepted the ring I offered her. I'm looking forward to our future together. And so, we decided to become a husband and wife. We went to report our marriage to Catherine. It was a sunny holiday, a warm afternoon with the sunset. Catherine, how are you? We've decided to get married. Please watch over us from heaven. And the two of us joined hands in front of Catherine's grave. Then something strange happened. I felt as if Catherine was saying, "Congratulations on your marriage." So I responded in my mind with a thank you. Then we left the grave, imagining the life that was about to begin for the two of us.